Most people believe the reason their lives feel out of control is because the world is unpredictable. They think if they could just fix the circumstances, make people behave, get the right job, find the right relationship, everything would finally settle. But here's the truth. The chaos you're fighting doesn't begin outside you, it begins within. You cannot master storms, but you can master your own hands on the wheel. And when you do, suddenly the storms lose their power. Control yourself, and you'll discover that you already hold the power to control everything that truly matters. From the beginning of time, people have wrestled with one question: what is truly within my control? The Stoic philosophers answered this with sharp clarity. They drew a dividing line between two realms: what belongs to you and what does not. Your thoughts, your choices, your judgments, these are yours. The weather, the opinions of others, the turns of fortune, these are not. Epictetus warned that confusing the two is the root of misery. When you try to command what lies beyond you, frustration follows. Imagine a man cursing the sea for being rough, as though his anger could calm the waves. This is how most of us live, demanding the world bend to our desires. But a Stoic sees differently. He asks, why spend strength on what no hand can reach? Why not direct it toward mastering what is already his own mind? Once this is understood, life becomes less a battle with shadows and more a discipline of clarity. You cease to be pulled in every direction by forces outside you, and instead begin the work of shaping the one thing the universe entrusted fully into your care: yourself. We spend much of our lives chasing the illusion of control over things that never belong to us. We try to control the outcome of our plans, the opinions of strangers, the rise and fall of markets, even the way others feel about us. Yet no matter how tightly we grip, these things slip through our fingers like water. History is filled with reminders of this truth. Consider the story of Julius Caesar, a man who commanded armies, bent nations to his will, and wore the crown of power. For all his might, he could not command loyalty in the hearts of those closest to him. His own friends betrayed him in the Senate, proving that even emperors cannot dictate the thoughts or actions of others. The Stoics looked at examples like this and concluded that external events are not ours to rule. They are indifferent, shaped by countless forces we will never control. But our response, our attitude, our discipline, our reason, that is always within reach. To chase after control of the outside world is to be forever restless. To turn inward and master the self is to step into a freedom that cannot be taken away. The real battle is not fought in the streets or in the courts, but within the walls of your own mind. Each day, countless impulses rise up. The desire to be liked, the craving for comfort, the sting of being overlooked, the flash of anger when plans fall apart. These are the battles most people lose long before they notice they were even fighting. Events themselves are neutral: a delayed flight, a critical comment, a missed opportunity. What turns them into torment is our reaction. A harsh word does not wound on its own. It is the judgment we attach to it, the story we tell ourselves, that causes the pain. The Stoics taught that emotions are not enemies, but signals. They reveal whether we have surrendered to impulse or stood firm in reason. If you let anger, fear, or envy dictate your steps, then you live as a servant to forces within you. But if you recognize them for what they are, passing waves in the mind, you can let them rise and fall without being carried away. Self-mastery begins here, in the quiet observation of your own thoughts, and in the steady choice to rule them instead of being ruled. True power has never been about bending the world to your will. It has always been about bending your will to reason. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To control yourself means more than keeping calm in the face of hardship. It means ordering your inner life with discipline, clarity, and restraint. It is the ability to act according to principle, not impulse. Think of a man insulted in public. One path is to lash out, to prove his pride cannot be touched. But the Stoic chooses differently. He knows the insult is nothing more than sound, an echo of another person's thoughts. Why hand over his peace to someone else's tongue? By refusing to be provoked, he demonstrates strength greater than any retaliation could show. This is the essence of self-mastery, the freedom to remain unmoved by what would enslave others. When you control yourself, you are no longer tossed about by every slight, every disappointment, every temptation. You stand like a fortress, not because the storms have ceased, but because you no longer grant them the authority to rule you. One of the greatest traps in life is the habit of blame. When things go wrong, we point outward. We say it was the fault of our parents, our boss, our government, the economy, or simply bad luck. Yet every time we shift responsibility away from ourselves, we surrender our power. A man who blames is a man who waits for others to change, waits for circumstances to improve, waits for the world to hand him peace. But the Stoics saw this clearly. To place blame is to chain yourself to forces beyond your control. Seneca wrote that a wise person does not complain about the winds but adjusts the sails. Consider how much energy is wasted in excuses. A student who fails and blames the teacher learns nothing. A worker who misses a chance and blames his company remains stuck. But the one who looks inward, asking, "What could I have done differently? How do I prepare better next time?" that person grows. To blame is to abandon your own authority. To accept responsibility is to reclaim it. When you stop pointing fingers, you stop waiting for permission to change. And that is when true control begins. Control is not built in grand moments, but in small choices, often unnoticed. The Stoics practiced a simple yet profound discipline, pausing before reacting. When an insult came, when fortune turned, when anger rose, they taught themselves to wait, to let reason step in before passion took command. This pause is not weakness, it is power. Seneca spoke of preparing for loss each day, not to live in fear, but to meet life with readiness. He imagined losing wealth, health, even friends, so that when these trials came, they would not crush him. This practice, called negative visualization, is not morbid, but liberating. It reminds us that what can be taken is not truly ours, and what is truly ours, the ability to choose our response, cannot be taken. Imagine someone cutting you off in traffic. The first surge is anger, the demand for justice. But if you pause, you see clearly. Their act cannot dictate your peace unless you allow it. In that breath of choice lies freedom. Every time you choose your response instead of reacting blindly, you strengthen the muscle of control. Over time, this practice turns chaos into clarity and life into a training ground for mastery. Desire is one of the most subtle forms of slavery. It promises freedom. Get this, achieve that, and you will finally be satisfied. Yet the more we chase, the more dependent we become. Wealth, comfort, status, recognition, none of these are wrong in themselves, but when they command us, we lose ourselves. A man who cannot resist indulgence in food is not free. A woman who cannot go a day without praise is not free. The Stoics warned that the more you desire, the more chains you place on your soul. Epictetus told his students that freedom is not found in getting everything you want, but in learning to want less. Consider the countless people who live restless lives not because they lack necessities, but because they are enslaved to endless wants. Each desire feeds another, like a fire that only grows with more fuel. But when you begin to discipline your wants, when you practice contentment with what you have, an unexpected strength appears. The world loses its grip on you. Luxury no longer defines you, failure no longer terrifies you, and temptation no longer pulls you from your path. To master desire is not to deny joy, but to reclaim the ability to choose it on your own terms. Of all the passions that strip us of control, anger is the most dangerous. It burns quickly, blinds reason, and leaves destruction behind. The Stoics considered anger a form of temporary madness, a moment when a person abandons the guidance of reason and surrenders to impulse. Seneca devoted an entire work to warning against it, writing that anger has toppled empires, ruined friendships, and led men to their own downfall. Think of how many lives have been shattered by a single act done in rage, a word spoken that could not be taken back, a decision made in fury that altered everything. Yet anger itself is not forced upon us. It arises, yes, but it only rules us if we allow it. The Stoic response is to catch its spark before it grows into fire. When you feel it rise, remind yourself, the offense is only an opinion, the insult only a sound, the delay only a moment. You decide its weight. By cooling anger with reason, by refusing to let it dictate your hand, you keep your freedom. A man who controls his temper controls more than just himself. He controls the course of his life, for he does not let passion steer him into ruin. Anger is not strength. The refusal to be mastered by it is. Fear and anxiety are perhaps the most subtle thieves of control. They creep into the mind quietly, shaping choices before we even realize it. Fear of failure stops us from acting. Fear of judgment silences our voice. Anxiety about the future drains the present of its strength. The Stoics taught that much of what we fear is nothing more than imagination. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the future cannot harm him, for it does not exist yet. It is only a picture painted by the mind. When armies threatened Rome, he did not collapse under visions of disaster. He steadied himself by focusing on what could be done in the present moment, his duty, his choices, his command of himself. In our own time, anxiety often takes the form of endless what-ifs. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if tomorrow falls apart? But the Stoic response is to ask, has it happened yet? If not, why suffer twice? Once in fear, and again if it truly comes. To free yourself from fear is not to deny danger, but to meet it with clear eyes. You cannot prevent the shadows of the mind from appearing, but you can refuse to bow before them. In that refusal, you reclaim control. Self-control is not proven only in great trials. It is forged in the ordinary choices of daily life. The Stoics believed that how you live each hour trains you for the moments that truly test you. Consider something as simple as food. To eat with moderation, not in blind indulgence, is a practice of discipline. To guard your words, speaking with honesty instead of gossip or rashness, is another. Even where you place your attention, whether you waste it on distractions or devote it to what matters, reveals the state of your mastery. These small acts are like weights in a gym, each repetition strengthening the muscle of control. When hardship strikes, those who have trained in discipline are prepared, while those who have neglected it are easily undone. Epictetus compared life to a series of tests, each requiring the skills you have practiced. If you cannot govern your tongue, how will you govern your anger? If you cannot rise early, how will you endure hardship? The way you do the smallest things is the way you will meet the greatest things. Control yourself in the daily details, and you will find that when storms come, you are already standing on solid ground. Freedom is often imagined as the ability to do whatever you wish, whenever you wish. Yet the Stoics turned this idea on its head. To them, the one who indulges every desire is not free at all, but chained to the whims of appetite and circumstance. Real freedom comes only from self-mastery. Epictetus, born a slave, understood this better than most. Though his body belonged to a master, his mind remained his own. He taught that no one could compel him to think or believe against his will, and in that inner sovereignty he was freer than emperors bound by vanity and fear. Contrast this with rulers who commanded nations yet could not resist their anger, lust, or ambition. They wore crowns, but they were prisoners to themselves. The paradox is clear. The more you control yourself, the freer you become. When you are no longer enslaved to possessions, insults, or circumstances, nothing can truly touch you. Chains may bind the body, fortune may strip away wealth, but if your reason and will remain steady, your freedom is untouchable. This is why the Stoics sought mastery not over others, but over the self. For in mastering yourself, you gain a kingdom no thief can steal and no tyrant can rule. Life is filled with obstacles, but the Stoics taught that obstacles are not enemies, they are opportunities. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the Stoic challenge, to turn every difficulty into fuel for strength. A closed door is not the end of the path, but the beginning of a new one. An insult is not humiliation, but training in patience. Loss is not ruin, but practice in detachment. Think of a man criticized harshly. To most, this is an injury to pride. But to the Stoic, it is a moment to test control. Can he respond with calm? Can he learn without anger? Can he remain steady while others falter? Modern life offers endless obstacles, rejection, delays, setbacks, failures. Yet each one contains a hidden gift, the chance to sharpen discipline, to grow stronger, to prove mastery over the self. When you meet obstacles with resistance, you suffer. When you meet them as teachers, you grow. The Stoic sees no wasted hardship, only training. And in this training lies freedom, because nothing the world throws can strip you of the one thing that matters most, your choice to turn it into power. The lesson is simple, yet it carries the weight of a lifetime. Control yourself, and you control everything. The world will always be uncertain. Fortune will rise and fall, people will praise and betray, health will come and go. You cannot change this. But when you master your own mind, the chaos outside loses its power over you. A storm may rage, but inside you remains calm seas. Insults may come, but you decide their worth. Loss may strike, but you choose how to carry it. This is the hidden strength of the Stoic, to live in a world that cannot be ruled, yet to remain unshaken because he rules himself. The man who commands armies but not his own temper is weak. The woman who owns riches but not her own desires is poor. But the one who governs thought, choice, and will possesses a kingdom greater than any empire. Nothing can truly harm such a person, because nothing can take away the freedom of self-mastery. When you grasp this truth, you stop being a servant of chance and become a master of life. Control yourself, and the world itself bows before your calm. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more timeless lessons that strengthen the mind and steady the soul.